if you're training with the right amount of intensity, as explained in our previous video, and yet you are still not progressing as much as you'd like to, then making sure that you're also getting the proper amount, but also proper quality of rest in between sets is another huge muscle building amplifier. Now, before we dive into quantity and the exact numbers, how many minutes and seconds you have to rest in between sets, I want to talk first of all about something that I do not hear a lot of people cover, and that is quality of rest. I am a big believer that how you rest matters. Specifically, I'm a big fan of active recovery, meaning walking around, which by the way is also a great way to double your steps while training and also burn a few extra calories. More importantly though, walking in between your sets will increase blood flow, which will help clear out waste products that build up in your muscles during intense work. And it will also prevent your body from stiffening up or cooling down too much, especially if you like to train outdoors in the cold like me. Personally, not only do I feel that I recover faster and feel lighter for my next set when I walk during my resting periods, but I also find that it helps me stay more in the zone, helping me attack that next set always laser focused. Especially if you compare this to just sitting down and staring at your phone's screen, which is probably something that you are already doing enough of during the rest of the day. All right, so next, let's talk about the benefits of longer and shorter resting periods. And right after that, we'll dive in the exact numbers you have to know. So if you've been training for a while, then you've probably noticed that when you are taking short resting periods, you feel a really good pump from your training. Whereas when you take longer resting periods, you perform better, you get more reps, or you lift more weight. So what is better then? Well, to answer this, we first of all have to figure out what is the primary mechanism of hypertrophy. Although debated for over a century now, evidence nowadays is pretty clear that mechanical tension is king. In simple words, this means having your muscles produce maximum force while contracting against a resistance, either that is your body weight or an external weight, at a rep range of 6 to 12 reps, where longer resting periods are key. On the other hand, metabolic stress is considered more of a secondary muscle building mechanism nowadays. This is observed more when you're training at higher repetitions, meaning anywhere between 12 and 20 or even higher than that, with short resting periods. And yes, you might observe a greater muscle pump when you're training this way, but if your goal is hypertrophy, maximizing muscle growth, then this shouldn't be the main focus of your training. To summarize it all, long resting periods that allow you to get your best sets in will always beat shorter resting periods and more pumpy sets in the long run. This is why when it comes to hypertrophy, and especially for people who are still beginners or intermediates, meaning you haven't been training consistently for over 2 years, ideal rest will be somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes, depending on how taxing the exercise that you are performing is. For example, I like to take a lot longer resting periods, closer to 4 or even 5 minutes sometimes, especially for my last best sets when I'm doing an exercise such as Romanian deadlifts, which are really taxing for the neuromuscular system, compared to an exercise like ring skull crushers. This is, by the way, how I'm calling this exercise, where my rest will be anywhere between 90 seconds plus or minus 30. In other words, you can get away with shorter resting periods when you're doing more isolation kind of work compared to more compound work. Of course, intensity will also determine how much rest you need, but if you're training below 4 reps in reserve, as we explained in the previous video, which you should if you want to build muscle, if you want to progress, then following are the ideal resting periods for you. When it comes to deeply taxing exercises such as deadlifts and heavy squats, then you want to rest anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, or even more if you feel you need it. For classic compound exercises such as handstand push-ups, pull-ups, and dips, you want to rest anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. And finally, for more isolation work, exercises such as bicep curls, pelican curls, and ring skull crushers or tricep extensions, 90 seconds plus or minus 30 seconds should do. Of course, there's a lot more to this and different training methods and, training programs can manipulate rest in different ways, but this is more or less how much rest you need when you're training in a more linear way. Now, these are general recommendations, but they're also not set in stone, okay? So if you're not anymore a beginner, if you've been training for a while, then you can start listening to your body more. You can manipulate rest, a little bit further, take some extra rest when you need it, take a little bit less when you feel that you've recovered properly. For example, today, even though I had surpassed by far my resting time for my last set of weighted dips, I still took another minute because I felt that my body needed it, because I felt that I would probably get an extra rep if I did so. And the way that I think about it is that performance always trumps strict resting times. Now, one of my favorite ways to get plenty of rest between sets without completely breaking the time bank are maximum effort supersets, which will also be the main training method that we'll be utilizing in Project Underdog. By the way, if you're wondering what is Project Underdog, this is an 8-week program that has everything you need to build muscle, drop your gut, and carve a rugged, strong, and lean physique using only a set of adjustable dumbbells and a pair of gymnastic rings. So if you're looking for a zero fluff program, just the nitty-gritty stuff that works, plus expert guidance and accountability, then make sure you check out the new page that I've created below about this program. And do not forget to subscribe to the Underdog newsletter list, since we'll be starting soon and spots will be limited. Compared to a traditional superset, maximum effort supersets take longer resting periods between exercises, allowing you to get your best reps in, building this way more strength and, by extension to that, more muscle. For example, let's say that you pick pull-ups and chest dips for your first maximum effort superset. What you do is the following. Number 1, you perform one set of pull-ups and you rest for 1 to 2 minutes instead of 10 to 20 seconds, which is your resting time during a classic superset. Personally, I like to lean more towards 2 minutes, especially if I'm not really pressured by time. Next, you perform your set of chest dips and then rest for 2 to 3 minutes. Again, personally, I like to lean more towards 3. Once you're done, this is one maximum effort superset, and I do not recommend that you exceed a total of 3. Now, the main problem with long resting periods is that they make your workouts a lot longer. But if you're doing a lot of junk volume, then they might even save you time, or at least keep your training time the same if you focus at doing less but harder sets with longer rest. For example, take a recent story from one of our latest trainees in our one-on-one coaching, who basically came to me with a workout plan that just had a shitload of training volume with very short resting periods. And as a result of that, he had been plateauing forever. Now, even though he was kind of, feeling scared that this is as far as I can go, I'm 45 years old, I have a family, I don't sleep that much. After making a few simple changes, putting him on max effort supersets and coaching him a little bit on how to train more effectively, closer to technical failure, he started breaking plateaus and he started making progress again, not just as a one-time fluke, but on a consistent weekly basis. And this is one of our core coaching beliefs here at Bodyweight Muscle, meaning if you're doing too many sets, it's typically just a crutch for junk volume, a topic that we'll be covering in future videos. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Finally, keep in mind that different chapters in life call for different approaches. Therefore, if right now you do not have the luxury to take really long resting periods, don't worry, this doesn't mean that you won't build muscle. It might take a little bit more, but where there's a will, there's a way. If you have a properly designed workout plan, you can always achieve great things if you have some patience. So that was all for today. If you have any questions, as usually, leave them below. And until next time, keep on training.
I get back up, get up and go, I stay ready for more. Go